Hello, my Scrappy friends. It is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters, and thank you for joining me for a Kitaholic Kits design team layout. And thank you for playing along and following along with our Scraptember series for 2023. Today is the 28th, and we are working with a large circle. So I started off by pulling a couple of my teardrop dies out of my stash and getting my little $12 makeup brush from Kmart and rubbing through one of our big Vicky Bouton stencils that we got a long time ago in a past kit. I just combined the two different colors of sort of teal and blue. I did not clean off my brush, as you can see. I just kind of switched and swatched between the two, rubbing it through the stencil to get this really beautiful wave effect across my circle. I tried quite hard to kind of match up where I popped the stencil next, just to not get that obvious join line and to try and get it looking as nice and cleanly matched up as I could. I tried flicking the stencil, I tried moving the stencil. It's quite difficult to line the stencil back up again, but I think I kind of got it well enough that it's okay. So I'm going to finish off this beautiful circle with all of these patterns. I think the key is when you're lining up your stencil to not keep it in a uniform position, so you don't have an obvious line like all the way down the center or all the way across one particular horizontal point. So I tried to kind of stagger where I was joining up the lines, and I think that it worked. Now, I love the way this looks. And to be fair, this is where I should have stopped. So I should have said, wow, look at that amazing ocean, and the end. But instead, I decided to be a little bit extra. I kind of smushed off my brush a little bit. You can see there's hardly any ink on it anyway. Then I pulled a second stencil. This was from a different Vicky Bouton set of stencils that we got in a kit a while ago. And I start brushing through another teardrop ink in a yellow and the Distress Oxide in that beautiful sort of peachy color, I guess. And then I pop that through. Now, does it look terrible? No. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Should I have stopped with the wave? Definitely. But I've done it now, and we're just going to keep rolling. I continue anyway, and look, I just keep going. I love the idea of what I was aiming for with this layout, but I just went a little bit too extra on all aspects of this layout. But we had fun. I would do this again, and I would just modify it this next time to tone it down just a little. Just a smidge. So I was just trying to pull the different colors that I am using from the kit into my background. And look, that definitely worked, but I didn't really need to do that. There's enough features of the colors already included. Now, one thing I don't regret is using the incredible copper paste that is in this month's mixed media kit. OMG, that stuff is like butter. It just spreads on so beautifully, does not smudge. It is the most divine color. I need one in every tone, every color, everything. It is beautiful. So I definitely love the addition of that on top of the circle. And as I said, I wish I had have left it with just the waves and that beautiful bronze, and that would have been perfect. So our papers this month we got as a whole collection of like a kit of papers, the pack of papers. So the packaging that the papers came in, I've put my little circle inside, and I have just got my sewing machine, and I am sewing all the way around like a pillow, leaving a little gap for where I can pop some stuffing. So once I get all the way around and just have a little section left over, I'm cutting a slit into that original packaging so that I can reach the little opening section there, shaking in all the sequins, the entire packet of sequins, and then also shaking in the entire packet of pom-poms. My immediate thought when I saw these in the kit was to create a shaker pocket with them. They're just too fun for me to not put into a shaker pocket, and I wanted it to be a large one. This is actually the first layout I created for the month because I was just so excited to make this fun shaker pocket. So now that is all done, you can see it is shaky. It's actually, if I'm being honest, I've actually sewn it a little bit too flat and a little bit too tight. I needed just a tiny bit more air into this plastic shaker just so that the pom-poms would move around a little bit more. The sequins move no problem, but the pom-poms, because they're a little bit fatter, they're a bit stuck in place, which is good and bad because sometimes it's annoying when shaker pockets, everything inside the shaker pocket just falls to the bottom. This way the pom-poms are staying in place and the sequins kind of get stuck in and around them, which is nice. Then I just went ahead and cut all the excess plastic off from around the edge, and my big shaker is done. I pulled this piece of yellow cardstock out of my stash. This was one of the papers from our collection from last month's kit. It was just a really nice color match with the feel of what was going on. I felt that by using the papers that we got in this month's kit, it was too much pattern. There was too much in the background. But then I found a white paper was a little bit too stark. But then I decided that this plain yellow was a little bit too boring as well. I just could not make up my mind. So I ended up putting some of the beautiful acetates in the background, just kind of sticking out underneath the circle, the large circle, just to give the background a little bit of decoration as well. This layout is all about using all the things, I feel. As I mentioned before, it's the very first layout I made for the month. So I have the excitement of all the things from the kit and I just want to get them all onto my page. So while I'm playing around with that, I'm just sticking on these acetates with white glue. You can sort of see it from the reflection in the camera right now in the top of the letter P and in the letter E in Happy Place, but that does fade away as it dries. Sometimes there's a lot of problems sticking on acetate, and there's been so much talk about the best sort of method for doing that. I can never decide if the least amount of glue possible is the best method or covering the entire thing is the best method. They both seem to work for me depending on the acetate. When I am backing the acetate on white cardstock, I definitely go with the method of covering the entire piece of acetate with glue to stick that onto the white cardstock. I do find that is the best way with that one. So that is the layout of my photos. That is the layout of my acetate. Now I need to start sticking. I was so certain of how I wanted everything to go, but then so indecisive putting it all down. So just playing around with it all now. There are my photos. I've just backed them in a plain white. You saw them the first time without any backing, and that just didn't work. The photos just didn't pop enough. So I've just popped those in the little white frame around them, and I think that makes all the difference. And now I'm going to stick those down on here. I do need a little bit of foam underneath any of the photos that are not on top of the circle because the pom-poms are pushing the photographs up off the page. Like the top of Jack's head and the little corner of that bottom photo was sitting quite far down if I didn't put any foam behind it. So I did do that. So this is my little hack that I like to do with acetate, is to stick it to white cardstock, fussy cut it out, and it just makes it pop that little bit better off your page. I just find acetate so much more usable when I do it like this. Yes, of course, it takes that little bit more time, and yes, you have to wait for the glue to dry, and then you have to fussy cut it out. And no, this is not a technique that is something that everybody wants to use, but for me, I do just find the acetate a more user-friendly piece of equipment or piece of inventory if I have it stuck on white cardstock first. So now that those 3 flowers are down, I am up to building up my clusters, and they're just going to be little clusters just around those flowers because there's a lot going on this layout with that large circle with all the colors and then all the things in the shaker pocket and then the extra pieces of acetate happening around the page and now clusters as well. This layout is getting a little bit busy. but I do love it. So I'm just going to keep the clusters really simple. Just a few little bits and bobs added to each little flower spot there, and just try not to go too far over the top. I did really struggle. Soon I'm going to put on the title, and I kind of skip most of it because I did really struggle with where to put the title for this one. I played around with putting it on the shaker pocket, but you couldn't really see it because of the busyness of the pocket itself. I also really struggled with choosing a thicker type. We did get thickers in this month's kit, but they didn't really work with what this layout was. You couldn't see them very well. So I decided to go with little teeny bronze thickers just to match the beautiful bronze and the sequins, and then that's what I did with the copper splatters as well. And I just love the way this all pulled out together. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out that playlist to see all the other amazing Scraptember layouts featuring this month, and we cannot wait to see you again soon. We're almost at the end.